Welcome back to Bracket Final Fantasy VIII Bracket. So yeah, this part is dedicated to Teo because Teo was very insistent that we do the Deep Sea Research Center. There you go. There's there's the Pandora thingy right there, but we're not gonna deal with that right now.
Meanwhile, Cypher is nervously tapping his foot. What the fuck is taking so long?
And with
sorry, Pedro, sorry, for a second there I thought you said the DCEU Center, and I'm like, that explains so much.
And by the way, Libs, this time you'll not be able to tell me that I'm making Squall look like he has his priorities screwed up because this was on request of Teo. So
okay, so I can say that Teo is the one doing that.
There you go.
I mean, okay, to be fair, Libs, the stuff we're gonna get is very good equipment, so you could argue that this is Squall.
No, not necessarily equipment, Jova. More like the boss fights when you fight and one, potentially 2 GFs you get.
1 second. Guys, what is this place?
A dumpster fire.
I'm not really sure, but it
You're
looks like a bunch of
You're
ruins.
actually not that far away from the truth, Libs, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I've heard about a mobile island that was used to gather materials from various regions for research.
Oh, cool.
Sweet. This could be it. Or it could just be an island that has a tortoise carrying it. I've also heard this thing was in search of a large draw point somewhere.
Yes,
useful.
Yes, it's like in Golden Axe. The piece of land turns out to be a turtle, giant turtle that carries over the sea. So.
Or it's a lion turtle.
All right, this particular bit is fucking annoying. But go ahead, Joe. I'll explain in a moment.
Looks like it's been abandoned for years. What is that big blue thing? Oh my god! It's big. Oh my god! It's Big Blue from F-Zero.
What is it? Oh, sorry. I have no control. Sorry. What an awful light. That's basically what he said.
Let's check out the core. We might find out more about it. You know, what is it about?
Don't worry. The dialogue in this part is mostly expository.
The blue line leads to all death. Turn back.
Well, that's clear our sign to move on forward.
What if I say please?
Okay, so here's how this particular set piece works. If you move at all, there you go, see? If you move at all while the light thingies are rotating, you get into an automatic battle. Even the turn off random battle booster won't save you from them.
To be fair,
so there you go.
Turn it off for that.
No, it's not for this one, but I was talking about this for later on, actually. Because this is actually basically your test. The character we're gonna meet you later essentially is essentially testing you, and you have to fight like 3 times obligatorily here. 1 against the Anaconda and 2 minions, and 2 against 2 Ruby Dragons, if I recall correctly.
Sure.
Why are they testing our patience?
The idea is that it's kind of a thing. Like, see, notice that thing rotating? Now I stop. Okay, now I keep walking because I can, and therefore no battle. See, even if you turn off the random battles on the booster dwibs, it still will trigger a battle anyway.
You have perceived the resonance.
It's because .mu didn't want to mess with the way the gameplay set piece is constructed because that would break the set piece. So they decided to make it so that the booster doesn't have effect here, which is fine. I understand why. It's still it's still really annoying though because this isn't really challenging in any meaningful way. It's just tedious to just make me walk very slowly to the computer thingy.
I mean, I can sort of see how some people would have found it somewhat intricate as a dungeon mechanic back then, and honestly, this isn't the weirdest dungeon mechanic Square have done in their history.
It's a big job, but it's also the fact that the game doesn't really tell. It would have been pretty easy to fix with Squall having a mental note and say, the light, it might be dangerous moving when the lights are glowing.
Yeah, that's the.
So you wish to challenge me?
And I absolutely hate the obtuse way you get off on this bit, but I'll mention it in a moment. But like Teo said, the game never really explains that that's how the set piece works, that you have to move only when the thing is not rotating.
I mean, you can discover that pretty quickly, but it would have been so easy to just add that throwaway line.
Why does it look like Christus's head is on fire?
Stat effect.
It's one of those things where...
What's it called? Brain fire?
No, it's the blind debuff.
There you go.
And yeah, since it's supposed to be a end game type of level, it contains some strong enemies, and since Pedro has had the level 100, that means all of them are pretty much spongy at this point. So enjoy.
That's okay. I can. It gives me time to talk about something. Can we all agree at this point that Renoa at this point is not even a character? She's just a trophy for Squall at this point. Because seriously, her entire subplot. Hold on, let me finish. Her entire subplot about the revolution has been completely dropped, like we've talked about various times. She has literally completely agreed to Squall going against her wishes and just, no, I don't care if you decide to sacrifice yourself for the greater good. I'm gonna keep you here because, reasons.
Me for mercy.
Well, actually, no, Pedro, I disagree. I think she has a character.
Okay, Dwebs, by all means, explain.
She's a Squall sycophant.
I'm not entirely sure if that's a good thing.
I didn't say she had much of a character or that was good. I'm just saying she still has one.
Yeah, it's mostly because literally every single time that the game tries to establish some kind of, initiative on her part or some kind of thing that will define her as a person, it's negated. In the case of the revolution, it was completely dropped and forgotten. In the case of her decision to go willingly with the Astarians so she can, be safe a place where she can harm anybody, especially her friends and now loved one, and Squall negated that choice.
Damn imbeciles, why do you wish to fight?
And yeah, you have to pick the quote-unquote third invisible option that the game doesn't even hint that it's there.
It says it's our nature. It's pretty obvious because the other two major answers go completely against what the game has been telling so far about seeds.
That is fine, Teo, but here's the thing. Up until this point, Teo, there have been no points where there's a hidden third choice in any of these choice bits. Therefore, my brain has been trained to not expect it. Therefore, I have no reason to expect it to be here. A good game, a well-designed game, trains your brain to expect breakings of patterns instead of just having a pattern that never breaks except for this one bit.
The thing is Bahamut.
Yeah.
I am Bahamut.
The great GF.
GF, score cool using my powers. It is you humans I fear.
So yeah, we just gave Bahamut and
Bahamut is kind of a bitch in this game. Okay.
Well, basically, we just gave Bahamut an existential crisis.
Really? Just because he said GF? Man, Bahamut, you...
Okay, I think it's another case of where the script was a bit cryptic also in the original. Let me see if I can get it, but it's sadly tied to this entire dungeon in general because, like I mentioned in the central ruins bit, this is also the other dungeon that feels the fuck out of nowhere. And it has this oral mystery that you don't know. But it's tied to the war, but you don't know in some capacity, that someone fucked up things big time, and you will see later that too. But again, and Bahamut is apparently connected to here. As we will learn later, this was a place to harness, power of GF, and this will mention a draw point. So basically, the idea is that Bahamut was the spirit of an old civilization, and and now it's being referred as just a tool, a GF. That's the thing that scares him, the fact that he's tied, associated to humans. This is connected to one of the theories of the game that hasn't been debunked to this point, but it's more of a tongue-in-cheek one. But I will mention it after we're done with the fight with Bahamut, because there's an entire place where nothing happens actually.
It's okay. It goes back to the game treating the summoning creatures in this game like they're fucking tools for the humans to use rather than real, actual, ethereal beings that have some kind of history. And that's what I don't like at all.
No, that's also the problem. The game doesn't tell much about it and makes it local when it should be like a global thing, again, like the material. Everyone should be using them properly, but it feels as if only the major characters do use them. And yes, I know that there's an instance near the end of the game where, a difference occurs on that nature. I know that. It's similar also to the trends of FF9. but similar to that, it makes literally no sense, but only the main character can have this mechanic.
Yes, Jova?
Regarding to your thing about Renoa, I'd say she still has more of a character than...
Quistis.
Well, I was gonna actually say characters from a certain other game that I could mention, but regardless though, what gives her enough of a character is the fact that she has been shown to be, and yes, this is me actually talking about the meaning of the story and not the implications that we picked up on, her genuinely caring for Squall and actually trying to get him to open up. Noticing that Squall is something of a troubled soul, but one that could maybe just use a bit of friendship here and there. At least it starts off as friendship and then evolves into the more romantic stuff later on. But getting him to come out of his shell so that he can become a stronger person for it, which was sort of part of her arc in, like, yeah, pretty much most of this too, honestly. I mean, like I said, unfortunately, she is not a perfect character by any stretch of the means whatsoever here. And her arc could definitely be written better, but I'd say it's a bit of a ways, before calling her just a trophy.
Well, that's the thing, Jova. It's kind
interesting
again. Well, it boils down to this. This is also something that I'm going to talk in my final thoughts. But at the same time, Jova, I don't really care about what the game could have been and what its intent is. I only care about how it comes across as it actually is. You know, like, because we can talk all day about about the missed potential and what it could have been, but we're not here to talk about what the game could have been. We're talking about what the game actually is. You know, and to me, it just comes across as the fact that, again, she had her subplot, her primary plot thing, and role in the world in general taken away from her by the writers, because she, like, seriously, the game basically forgets that plot was even a thing at this point. The fact that her major decision to, you know, get away from the people she likes so she cannot be a threat to them potentially is completely, that choice is taken away from her. It just gets to a point where I'm just like seriously, the game completely took away her initiative. Like, she's just, at this point, she's nothing but an object for a person that just stands there, if you prefer. Like, she has no agency at this point.
My point has never been really about what the game could have been or its potential, though. I am actually stating for certain that she does actually have the role of character in helping Squall come out of his shell here. Someone that he can connect to here and there, to which I do feel that she did fulfill that role in this too. Now, how much she fulfilled it, that is up for debate, but I would argue that she still does fill it enough, and she does have enough of a role in the last act that, like I said, she's far from being an object. No. Okay, now you want to talk about somebody who is comparable to being practically an...
sorry.
You want to talk about somebody who practically is an object pretty much near by the end of the game? Hope in the first 13 game, because after his whole arc is pretty much solved with coming to realize, oh god, maybe the guy who clearly didn't kill my mother. Yeah. He might as well just be a wall in that game.
Yeah, I do agree as well. It's mostly because, okay, that would be fine, kind of, maybe, but the way she, quote-unquote, makes him come out of his shell is so terribly executed that it just comes across as her emotionally abusing him out of his shell more than actually helping him, and that's why even that bit doesn't really work for me. Sure, what are your... Sorry,
special mention goes to her pushing him off onto that glass satellite. But yeah, sure, yeah. Why don't you...
What are your thoughts on all that, since you've been very vocal about how, quote-unquote, and allow me to quote your actual line, don't force this crap on an introvert, you bitch. So, want to expand upon that point, maybe?
No, they're all still terrible. I don't like any
Well, okay. What do you think about Renoa? Do you agree with my position or Jova's position? Or any other position that you might have, of course.
I mean, I don't really like... She's kind of all over the place, honestly, because she's had moments when she's terrible, and then she has moments where she doesn't do anything. And then she has moments where she just wants to be Squall's arm candy, and that's like... there isn't really a lot of consistency in my opinion.
Hey, sure.
I just don't really care. I mean, Quistis, I mean, you could say she's worse because she does nothing, but she's not as annoying.
Well, Quistis tries to seduce the little boy who she thought of as her little brother, based off of this.
Oh, no, she's worse.
So sure.
Seriously, I actually keep forgetting about that because she does so little else. I just don't even think about her.
It's a pick your poison situation, basically.
Yeah, none of it tastes good, so
it's like I said. Saying that the reason she tried to seduce Squall was based off of the sisterly instincts only makes it worse, really.
The whole the whole ex-teacher thing was actually better than, oh, I'm attracted because of a sibling thing, and it's like, no, that's weird.
It doesn't even make any sense for them to even add that to Quistis' character, because Squall's big sister figure is alone, not Quistis. So why even add that in? You could have just had her feel kind of, attracted to him because there's some sense of familiarity, not platonic non-familial. There you go. Let's go with that. Non-familial familiarity involved. There you go. That's all you needed to put in. You didn't need to throw in the big sister. You didn't even need to throw the big sister angle into it, which all it does is make this relationship also creepy, like on its own way. It's again, like there was literally zero thinking involved when putting together this stupid script.
I honestly think that the whole, I realize now that the reason I was in love with you, wanted to literally jump your bones, was because of sisterly feelings I had for you, was literally just their way of going, yes, Squall and Renoa are the canon ship. Just stick with that, and just to make it so that you don't support Squall and Quistis, here's something to make anyone who did ship them up to this point immediately regret it.
As a little break from it, let me explain how this dungeon works.
Yeah, I was about to, actually.
Don't worry, Tay, we still have time. Basically, the way this dungeon works, you start off with 20 points, and every time you go into a floor, you have to pick a specific number of points that you have in order to unlock a door. The problem is there's various different combinations of points you can do, and if you're not careful, you might run out of points later when you need them. So basically, and depending on how many points you spend in each floor, there might be some change where you might unlock a hidden floor that awards you 7 points, like it happened to me just now.
Anyway, those points is actually.
What happens if you run out of points? Do you get locked?
No.
The system gets reset.
You just reset it. Go ahead.
There you go. As the game says, actually, that the points is actually supposed to be Steam. This is because it's tied to what the dungeon actually is. Out of fucking nowhere, if you bring Zell, he suddenly actually knows about this shit. I get if I recall correctly, like he mentions that he read in a book what it was in Baland. This is supposed to be, as the wiki also calls it, the Battleship Island, that researcher working especially were attempting to develop another type of draw system, gathering different energies and material for a study, but in true fantasy, fashion, they dug too deep, and whatever they found wrecked the facility and left it in the state where we are now. And the fact that Bahamut had managed to be contained as well. And we will find what's on the bottom, I think, in a couple of minutes anyway. But so whatever, the other thing that I wanted to mention I'll mention it after that specific battle, that particular theory. But the other thing we need to know is that there's one particular point that if you have Zell in your party, he can use a couple of Steam units specifically to open all of the valves in order for you to bypass the dungeon. But as a trade-off, you'll get random encounters every random number of steps, no matter what type of blocker do you have to your encounter rate.
And even this booster doesn't work?
Nope.
Interesting.
It's purpose to punish you if you skip the power.
So basically, Teo, that kind of confirms that assumption that I made before. What this booster does is basically summon up the coding for the Encounter None ability from Vanille, but without you actually having that ability. So it's unlike the no encounters codes unlike the no encounters boosters from 7 and 9, which actually have their own original coding.
Yeah, 7 and I did not have a mechanic like this.
Yeah, no, it's because in the previous part when I assumed it was, you told me it wasn't. So you know.
Well, I thought it wasn't, but it feels at this point like it more like it is.
Well, there's
Anyway,
a thing. Well, go ahead.
The point is that the Squall has pushed a button that he probably should have not pushed.
Squall, don't push buttons that you don't know what they do.
Evacuation resuming. Oh,
They're not joking.
Yeah.
Except the leader? Damn.
Yeah.
Captain has to go down with the ship.
Warning, please take shelter.
It's interesting. No, I can definitely understand why .mu programmed the booster like this because there are a lot of gameplay bits that actually mess with the encounter none ability, and having this booster supersede the game in general would have broken this dungeon. So yeah, I can definitely understand why .mu went this way. Definitely.
The rocks are resonating.
Well, more so than any of your characters.
Almost as if they're like crystals, of course.
The air's pretty heavy.
Bro.
Could this mean a boss is coming?
Nah.
Yeah.
That's usually what happens in JRPGs. Whenever a character is going, something's wrong here. There's some kind of... That's because there's a boss coming.
Okay, so let's see what caused this place to get
Ultimate
abandoned.
weapon with Cloud's ultimate weapon.
Yes.
That's cute. Now, the thing is that I don't think you do, but from this enemy you can actually draw the most powerful GF in the entire game, Eden, an original one made for this. What's its gimmick? It has a super long animation attack that it exchanges by breaking the limit of damage, I think for the first time in the franchise, and dealing 5 digits damage, which is a big deal in this game. So it is worth to actually get it, especially for the endgame bosses, but you have to deal with the fact that it has a very long battle animation, actually.
And not to mention, correct me if I'm wrong, Teo, but unlike the stealing in Final Fantasy IX, there's no failure rate for the drawing GFs, is there? Because usually in this, because from my experience, when you just draw and that's it. There's no failure rate,
For the magic, everything that you draw is done automatically.
Okay.
There's no failure rate.
I mean, the only real major variation is how many spells you draw. Because sometimes you'll draw 3 fires instead of 5 or 9.
Exactly, yeah.
That's basically it. But yeah, just to continue my earlier point, again, it's one of those cases where... well, actually, hold on. Teo, you had something else to say?
Well, maybe after D5, but might as well, because, not much else is going on. Okay, I don't even know if you actually know this one, Pedro, but this is pretty compelling, considering the evidence that they said that it might be just a tongue-in-cheek type of reference, but comparing a lot of elements, people have speculated that this acts as a far future distant sequel to Final Fantasy III, surprisingly enough. The geography is very similar, for a point. We actually compare the map size. There's a lot of similarities, even in terms of geographical comparison. Essentially, in 3 there's a location called the Crystal Tower, which is at the focal point in reaching the World of Darkness and, gathering energy. And it's here in the place, in their place in this map, in this game, there's a huge crater where the Lunatic Pandora was supposed to be before. So, and also there's also the fact that the word Hein is mentioned as the progenitor of all witches, and Hein is, in Final Fantasy III, is a very magic-oriented type of enemy, and Three's lore is all about immortal beings shedding their magical abilities with others in exchange of immortality, for example. It's a bit of a long story, and it's time to lore that game. And there's also this dungeon, which feels as if there was an entire continent buried under the sea. And the lore about 3 is that there's a floating continent all above the ocean, but needed maintenance to remain airborne. So again, going through the logic, it seems that it's something more like the continent eventually fell, and the remains are there, and new civilization arose. Again, it's nothing more than a theory, a game theory, but again, compared to the other stuff that this game offers, it is the one that I think has more sense, even if it might not be true.
Sort of like how 10 is basically the past of 7.
10 is more like confirmed at this point, more than like even the 7 remake pretty much tells that. So
yeah.
it's just
Anyway.
that not be in the same planet, but more like in the same universe at the very least.
Anyway, too, I couldn't help but wonder. So this place is Battleship Island. So is it based off of the real Battleship Island, which is also sort of an abandoned Japanese island?
Could be. It could be a reference to that as well. The major name is the Deep Sea Research. It's just that Zell drops the name after again you get it. It's weird, but him of all people, because Zell is not a machinist. You know, he doesn't really seem to have experience with machines, and yet he's the one more knowledgeable about the place and helps you skip in the puzzle if you want. So I don't know.
Hidden depths.
It would be interesting if he really is good with machines. It would have been nice if they incorporated that in the story itself. But whatever.
Well, we've already got a machine techie on the team, haven't we?
We do. Who?
Well, I thought that was. I mean, or at least close to one. I thought that was Selfie, or is that more?
Well, Selfie drives the airship, and that's
and loves trains.
That's
I guess, to be fair, she was sort of the one driving that tank as well. I get
the idea that she had the idea of using the whatever the fuck the name that the tank was.
I guess I can see what Ribs means is like, well, Selfie does seem to be the one more akin with machines out of the group. That said, though, I wouldn't call her an outright mechanist, though. She's just someone who's very good at interacting with machines. Whereas Zell, I could see him having hidden depths as a mechanist.
I'd like to bring up.
Actually, I wonder what if that was supposed to be part of his character, but in all the stuff that got scrapped from this game, or just they didn't have time to include it.
I don't know. It's only only Kitaza can answer that question. I'd like to bring up a quote, one of my favorite quotes from Teo in our Fair Friends RF playthrough, and that quote was, and I quote, "Just because you can do something that doesn't mean you should." Because in point this game.
Well, I think one of us has said it before me, but go on.
Well, it's a quote that everybody says all along, but I just wanted to reference it from within the channel itself. But whatever. The point is, that's basically the primary philosophy when it comes to overall coming up with the world, the script, the story, the the philosophy that I get from this game when I play it is, if you can do it, just do it, regardless of whether or not you should. It's literally the opposite. Go ahead.
It's like I said, this game is literally a combination of Square feeling that they could do no wrong after 7 was such a big hit, and throwing in quite a lot without necessarily thinking out how to shape it all together properly.
All right.
Because it feels, hey, 7 did this, so let's do more of this, more of that, more.
All right. Let's continue. All right. So for the next part, we are going to start the poo-poo side quests. What is the poo-poo?
UFO on the side.
I gotta say, Pedro, you make Selfie drive very erratically. I can imagine everyone going from side to side, falling around.
Well, it makes sense of her character. There we go. See, Timber is indeed close to the CC.
Don't you know, there's a special gravity harness.
Yeah, it's literally just a few steps world map wise to get there.
Seriously, every time they're about to set off, I could just imagine them behind the wheel, smirking devilishly, going, "Hold on tight, ladies and gentlemen."
Yeah, that's the basic gist of it. Well, everybody, in the next part, we finish the poo-poo side quest, and then we continue the story as well.
See ya.
See ya.
Yeah.